celebrating up in here? Can somebody say we're celebrating up in here? Give it up for Whit Whitaker. We certainly want to thank you for blessing us. Again, give him a hand. You expect somebody to get up here without crying and everything after that, right? That's just not fair. As we continue on with our celebration of music here at the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame, we have Tripp Bratton coming on up to let us know what's going on. I heard Tripp has a connection to Lionel Hampton or something like that. I don't want to give it up, but I want you to come up here and tell everybody what's going on. Tripp!
Yeah, can y'all hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. Let me go ahead and bring up the folks who are going to join me here. We got Paul and Palmer and Bob. They're going to play along with me. Yeah, so I do have a bit of a connection with Lionel Hampton. Kind of a long story, but I'm going to do the short version of it. First of all, my name is Tripp Bratton, and I lifelong percussionist. It's my career, and I teach at Berea College and Center College, where I direct fusion ensemble at both schools and African percussion ensemble at both schools. I play in numerous groups. I play with these guys quite often, and I play with dancers, and I do jazz and funk and R&B and all the different styles of music that I can. Do a lot of studio recordings, things like that. Yeah, so my connection with Lionel Hampton, and we'll play a song and I'll maybe say a little bit more. But my mom is a wonderful jazz singer, in my opinion, the best jazz singer ever from Kentucky, female. And today's a very special day because 1 year ago today she passed away. And Renee and Warren have been great. They know her, and Renee went to school in the same, they grew up both in Boyd County. And, she born and raised in Kentucky, went to New York, played with all the jazz greats. And for a while in the 80s through about the year 2000, even a little bit after that, some places, she did a lot of international festivals. And she toured all around the world. And, I was in school during that time and maybe just a little bit after school. And one night, I got used to her calling me at random times because, she never knew what time it was in Kentucky when she called me. She called me one night. She also would get these frequent flower miles and she'd sometimes just randomly go places just because she had all these extra miles. So one night she called me up. I don't know whether it was the night where she was, and said, "Hey, honey, how you doing?" and all that. And, I was like, "Hey, you never guess what I did, where I am?" And I was like, "Well, no, you're right. I won't guess because I never get it right." She said, "I'm in Moscow." And I'm like, "Moscow?" This was before the Berlin Wall came down. This was in the 80s. And I'm like, "What are you doing in Moscow?" And then she's like, "Moscow, Idaho." And she goes, "I just played with Lionel Hampton and Elvin Jones." And she went through a bunch of other folks. And yeah, it was awesome. And Lionel was great. And, all this kind of stuff. And I have a photo. I was hoping to bring it. I couldn't quite get it together. But she played this Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival for, 5 or 6 years straight, while it was going on. And that was kind of at the end of Lionel Hampton's career. He would do this festival up at University of Idaho in Idaho. And they named the building after him, and they had a jazz festival. They named it after him. And he did a little bit of a residency there towards the end. And so they became really good friends. Stayed in touch with each other. He was a great person. I never got to meet him personally, but so when Renee asked me to do a thing for Lionel Hampton, I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." Not only for my connection through my mom, but I play the instrument that he made famous. And so we're gonna play a little bit. Then I'll say a little bit more about Lionel. But this first piece is to kind of set the stage. It's about 100 years ago. The vibraphone didn't even exist 100 years ago at this point. And the mallet players, folks, we call this mallet percussion. Folks that play mallet percussion mostly play the xylophone. And everybody kind of knows what a xylophone is. That's kind of the one everybody thinks this is. Like, "Oh, you play a xylophone." Well, it's a vibraphone. It's basically that you play it the same way. And when Lionel Hampton first got started, you know, he studied xylophone. And so about 100 years ago, what people were playing on the xylophone were ragtimes and things like that. You know, actually when Whit was doing Porgy and Bess, I was reminded of, there's a wonderful xylophone excerpt from Porgy and Bess that when I was in the Philharmonic, I was in the Lexington Philharmonic for a while, but part of my audition was to play this excerpt from Porgy and Bess on the xylophone. So the xylophone was a pretty popular instrument in those days, very popular in like vaudeville music, showtime music, all different things like that. So we're going to start off by kind of setting the stage. Lionel Hampton was studying this kind of music when he first got started. And this is a piece called The Whistler by George Hamilton Green. And it's a little bit of a rag. So let's try it out. That good? One, two, oh, 2, 3. In jazz and music in Lexington.
Yeah.
All these folks. Bob Hackett over here on bass. Lionel Hampton was born in 1908 in Louisville. And like I was saying, he studied the xylophone, studied drums. He was in a drum corps, fifing drum corps. And he went to some other spots. You know, he went to Alabama, he went up to Wisconsin. He ended up in Chicago for his teen years. That's where he really started studying a lot of music. Eventually, he kind of moved out to California. And there's kind of a story where he was playing drums with a band that was playing at NBC. And this is probably around 1930, I believe.